hello. This is a very important video, and there is some very important things I must cover first. Firstly, everything I say in this video, almost everything, is going to be on the website, which will be linked in the description below. And of course, looking at the website is going to be much easier than listening to me speaking and then having to try find the section that you want. Entire point I made the website in the first place. But yeah, check out the website if you just want to quickly look over things yourself, because it does have all the details. Next, everything is not final. This is a test build. A lot of things could change before the final release version, which is in a few months, and then some things will even change before the actual test, which will be happening next week. So do note that. Some other things. I'm not really going to be expressing my opinion in this video because honestly, that's for you guys to make up on your own. I'm just going to be stating the facts for you guys from, well, the test build, because, you know, that's what we have. And for the moment, these are facts, but they could change in the future. Remember that. So, firstly, I do have the site on my webpage, so I'm going to be showing that very briefly just to touch on the subjects. Everything stated on this page, again, it's facts. I'm not giving my opinion. And of course, because it's in development, there are some things that could change. So, first things first, why are we getting rid of the old crew system? And the old crew system gave us a lot of really useful abilities on our tanks. For example, firefighting, which reduces your firefighting time by 42%, a massive amount of time. And then of course, crew skills also gave you things like gun handling, making you more accurate when you're moving, camera rating, base capture speed, and allowing you to max roll basically every third shot about 35% of the time. It also gave you adrenaline rush, which gives you a bit more DPM when you're down to low HP. So there's some pretty nice skills. Not all of them are mentioned, but there are some more which are a bit more niche in their battle use, but yeah. So what's changed? Rather than having these 20 crew skills, we're now getting 2 big massive boosts on our stats in a specialized area of the tank gameplay. I have got the full details below in this article I'll be showing later in game. But some examples are permanently faster reload time, permanently higher HP, and permanent boost to mobility. Now these may sound super strong, but remember, 20 are getting replaced by 2. So of course they have to be strong to make up for what's been lost, and let me tell you, a lot of them have been lost, and you can definitely feel that in battle. For example, a lot of things relating to module damage, repair, effectiveness of damaged modules, firefighting of course, camera rating, and hull traverse speed. So they have to be strong to compensate for what's been lost. You do lose those, you can notice it in battle, but you definitely notice the strength of the commander. Again, they may seem too strong, but it's too early to judge for us. We've not played the millions of games we have with the regular crew skills. While they may seem too strong, it's very hard to know because it's a complete new meta. Rather than comparing them to the raw stats of other tanks in the game, they have to compare to each other because, of course, if you compare them to the raw stats, they seem completely overpowered. But again, why make this change? Before, there was a massive gap between experienced players and new players when they entered the game and had the crew skills. So, just to put into perspective, to be fully competitive in the old system, to have, you know, every single crew skill upgraded to max and be competitive in battle because they were all applied to your tank at once, you needed to spend 62 million XP. Now, in the new system, you don't have to have all of your commanders to max to be effective in battle. You only need one, just because as long as you can put him on every tank, then he's going to be useful in every single one of your battles. And in this example, the lowest XP cost is 2.25 million for Duncan, who can be used on every tank. So that is a massive difference in sort of the threshold you need to be at your maximum effectiveness in battle. Anything other than this, you have to make up with your own skills and experience in gameplay. And of course, if you do want to upgrade more commanders, they do go up to level 31 in terms of their maximum crew effectiveness, so they do get a bit more expensive, but it's still much, much less than the regular crew system. Yeah, and I've explained some examples down here. It's an easier system to choose and upgrade your skills. It's a bit more streamlined, rather than having a massive choice of 20 skills in the crew skill system. You see just these two, and it's fairly easy to upgrade them to their max level, and it's very linear for a newer player because there's only 2 rather than 20. Remember, newer players, they don't have the knowledge of the game that they need to be able to choose the right crew skills or which ones they want to have in terms of their personal preference, so of course having fewer makes it easier, but also they are pretty good skills which do help newer players as well. And then this one will be down to your personal preference, whether you like to choose and specialize the gameplay benefit that you get on your tank. So previously all crew skills were applied at once. You couldn't choose what you got, but they were all there on your tank. Now you can't have all the commander skills at once, but you can get to choose what your commander gives to your tank. For example, on a medium tank, I could choose Duncan to have permanently boosted DPM, or I could choose Anthony to have permanently boosted mobility and extra DPM when I track enemies, or I can choose the captain to have much more mobility and speed when I go down in my tank HP. So there is definitely a choice that you can have. And one thing to note is that there will be more commanders added to the game, so there will be more choice coming up for what your commanders can give to your tank. It's at the moment limited to just a few per tank class, but in the future there will be more. So another thing that must be addressed, are commanders too strong or OP? Again, like I said earlier, it's far too early to tell, but they are meant to be strong to compensate for the crew skills. You can't compare these commander skills to the current game just because it's a completely new meta. It's really hard to be able to tell just because we've not had the battle experience. Think of these commander skills as a trial by fire just because, you know, there's not been testing and we're going in and we're testing it like this. So yeah, good luck to all of us players who are, you know, trying out the commander skills. Give our feedback on them during the ultra test. When also, I must mention, when giving feedback, remember that these skills are part of a new meta, and don't compare them to the current game. If they are too strong and you think they're too strong for the meta, do say so, do give your feedback. But again, remember they're meant to be strong, so just have that in consideration. Try compare them to other commanders, to each other, rather than to an individual tank which you think, you know, that's way too strong. You have to compare them between the commander skills. So fears of pay to win. Of course, these are very justified fears because wargaming is a business, and like with tanks, it's possible commanders get sold in, well, the way that tanks get sold. But wargaming's current stance on this is that they don't plan to have OP commanders or pay to win commanders. Of course, we can't see the future, so we don't know what's going to happen, and if wargaming keep that promise. However, their current stance, their current view is that the main release method of commanders will be through events and in-game activities. If you miss these events, you'll be able to buy them later in the store. So they will be in events at first, so we can all grind them and get them in our garage, but if we miss them, if we miss the event or don't have time, they will appear later in the store, so we can sort of catch up on them if we miss them. And then there's no goal to sell OP commanders. Just like a tech tree tank, these guys can be nerfed if they are way too strong and buffed if they are too weak. Now, I won't go into this section quite yet, as I still have to talk about sort of how you get these commanders in the Ultra test. So this event screen is going to be in the Ultra test as far as I know, however with a few changes. Firstly, the commander container, that's pretty bad, so Wargaming is getting rid of that based on feedback. This will not be in the Ultra test build, it will be replaced by a higher rarity of the Commander XP book. And The Commander XP books right now are how you get XP to level up your commanders, which I will be showing in a minute. But just for you to note, this event is likely not going to be in the final Reforged release, which will be in a few months. The reason for that is because Wargaming has decided it's not a great idea. Well, it's not. Giving us this event isn't the best way to compensate for our crew skills that have been removed. They've decided it's better to directly compensate our crew skills by giving us commander levels or books, rather than giving us this choice where we could make a bad decision, such as buying a lower rarity of commander book, and it's not worth it. So likely, do remember that, likely this may not be, well, is likely not going to be in the final transfer when we do actually move the game over. And also Duck1e, the light tank commander, is going to be available in the transfer event on Ultra Test, but I'm not 100% sure how they will make her available in the actual release. So yeah, do remember in Ultra Test, when you try it out next week, that this is where you come to get Duck1e, the light tank commander, and your Commander XP books. It's unfortunate because you have to click it one by one, just like that. There's no slider at the moment. So, with that all out of the way, one very important thing I must say, commanders, they do not appear in-game. A lot of people were concerned about commanders, their appearance. I honestly don't care because they don't appear in game. As long as they're not on my tank, I couldn't care less. The tank appears as normal in battle. They just stand next to it in the garage, and of course in this screen. So don't worry if that was your fear. Yeah. So one thing I forgot to mention about commanders is their maximum skill level. When you go to upgrade commanders, there's something rather stupid that happens, and that is when you go to level boost, which you will inevitably do if you want to boost up your commander progress, it automatically applies 100 gold to boosting your level. So a note for everyone out there, do this and then go to another way of XP boosting your commander. So that's the first thing. Next thing, your commander's maximum level, in this case 30, does not equal their maximum skill effectiveness. How can you tell that? Well, look at Lisa. She has 1 bar above each of her skills. This shows the level of that skill. As you go up, the bars fill up and become fully upgraded when the commander reaches their maximum level. So, they don't actually tell you what that maximum level is in-game, but they are different for each commander, and you have to not waste XP by going over the level because it's definitely something you can do. So, for each commander, Duncan, his fully upgraded level is 20, Olivia is 20, Anthony is 31, Duck1e is 27, Kai is 26, Captain is 26, and Lisa is 27. Again, these values could change in the future, so do watch out for that. My recommendation when you do go on the Reforged update, for anyone, well, who is watching this in the future, is upgrade them to level 20, and then go one by one per level after that. So upgrade them to 20, well, yeah. Get to level 20 first, and then add 1 level at a time. Go back to the screen, check if the skill has upgraded, then keep adding levels until you reach their maximum level. That's how I had to do it to find out the maximum level of each of these commanders. So yeah, let's actually talk about the commanders themselves, and I will be showing a bit of gameplay to show sort of their skills in action. So Duncan, the default commander, you get him on all tanks, and it will be the commander that new players get when they get into the game, which is very nice because he has the lowest level cap, maximum level of 20, which makes him very easy to upgrade, only 2.2 million XP, which, yes, it sounds like a lot, but remember how much you're getting on your vehicles. Crew XP is more than your base XP, so do remember that. So Duncan gives really good skills. I'll talk about them in a minute, but they are very effective on every tank. Every tank has a use for them, and this is great because he is the new player commander, and it will be really useful for new players to just not have to switch between commanders as they are learning the game. His skills are strong, which is again great for new players because they're lacking skill when they enter the game, so him having quite strong abilities in his skills is quite useful for that. Of course, it also puts them on a more even playing field to us more veteran, experienced players. One more thing that is good about Duncan is that because compared to before, you don't have to upgrade 20 crew skills, you just need this one guy. As new players do get him fully upgraded, they can put him on any tank and still be just as, well, at their tank's maximum functioning capability due to this commander being upgraded. So that is the one opinionated part of this video where I'll say that is my opinion. And you know, I think Duncan being strong is pretty good because of the new player experience. However, I wouldn't be in disagreement with nerfing Duncan because he is very good, and you know, some of his skills could definitely be toned down a little bit. But again, it's too hard to tell at this moment. We've not tried the meta, we've not had the time to really test it out over thousands or even millions of battles. So yeah, but onto his skills. Every third shot which hits the target has a 20% damage increase. So this means that unlike the max roll crew skill from the previous version of the game, well, currently the current version of the game, this isn't limited by your tank's max roll. So they stack together. One example I will give of this, and this is by far the most extreme example, is if you use the 183, you have a chance to shoot the back of some really lightly armored tank with regular HE. You can max roll that regular HE with Duncan's skill to give it 2085 damage. That sounds crazy, but trust me, it's a really rare situation which I haven't seen yet, and I've not even come close. The most damage I've been able to do with Duncan's skill on HE is 1842, and that's against bots, so getting that HE out is a lot easier. Next, rapid fire. This increases the firing rate by 10.5%, which is basically just a buffed gun rammer. Again, it sounds very strong because it's permanent and it's throughout the whole game, but remember, all tanks can use Duncan, all tanks can have that higher firing rate. Yes, it may seem like games go faster, but with some of the other commanders, it may not be the case. Again, it's too early to tell. But yeah, a very nice skill for every tank, but you'll especially notice it on the slower reloading ones, and you'll see that in the gameplay I show in a second. So notice the intricate reload of my tank, 2.5 instead of 2.7. Let me just enjoy his crew voice line. And this is the 183. Of course, a few special situations with his crew skill. So the next commander is Olivia. This commander is for heavy tanks only, unlike Duncan, who can be put on all tanks. However, her skills are very useful for heavy tanks, and arguably I'd say they could be a bit strong. However, again, at this moment it's a bit hard to tell. Iron Will, which gives your tanks between 6 and 20% extra HP. Again, remember 6% will be when your crew skill is stock. And you can tell when a crew skill is stock by these white bars on the outside. But 20 is the maximum level which I have her at right now. So 20% HP does sound insane, but again remember, a lot of tanks have boosted DPM because of Duncan and some of the other commanders' boosted stats. So yeah, you do have to consider that, and it is again so hard to tell without having played thousands of battles with real players on a live server. The next one is Guerrilla Tactics, which increases your mobility and accuracy by 14%. Accuracy in this case, I believe, means dispersion. So again, a massive boost. You get this permanently, but for all your allies within 70 meters, they also get this boost, which is very nice if you're playing in platoon or playing close quarters with some allies in a battle. It also is unknown if this stacks. It says an additional effect at this bottom. That's usually where it says stacking or whatever, but right now it's empty, so currently unknown if it stacks. But Guerrilla Tactics is very noticeable for tank mobility on heavy tanks, and it is a really nice skill to have. You might see it a bit later with some heavy tanks in the gameplay, which I will show. So here is Olivia's skill. You can't tell too much because it's just HP, but you can see the HP difference in these two mouse tanks. Do note, ignore the armor differences because Kai isn't working in this version of the build. You can also notice my tank has 3300 HP, a 114 SP2. Next I'm going to show the sort of mobility. So this tank, because of Olivia's skill, able to go up this hill fairly fast. 14% mobility, very nice to have. So the next commander is Anthony Cole. He has, well, he's for medium tanks only. His first ability is called 1-2 Punch, and it allows you to have faster reload time for the next 7 seconds. This says 5, that's incorrect. It's 7 seconds when it's fully upgraded. For the next 7 seconds after you have destroyed an enemy track. Not just shooting enemy tracks, that won't work. The tracks have to be destroyed so the enemy can't move. Then your reload time increases, decreases by 15%, so you shoot 15% faster. It's basically what Duncan gives, but specifically for when you track enemies, and it's a bit stronger in terms of the DPM boost. I forgot to say, Duncan, Cole, and any other reload boosting commanders do give an intra-clip boost, which is very nice. It's not super OP like the consumable, but it is very nice to have, and it is fairly noticeable in battles. Next, double time. This gives mobility, 10%, which you can definitely notice. 10% is a lot of mobility, and it is very nice to have on medium tanks, especially the slower ones. Immediately off the top of my head, I'm thinking of the 122 TM. Though that wouldn't be a tank which you sort of use this first skill on. But having the nicer mobility will definitely be useful, and that doesn't increase top speed, by the way, it's just your general mobility. But I'll try to show some of Anthony's skills now. So this is Anthony's skill. Here you can see the mobility a bit. Of course you don't have too much to compare it to, but I will tell you it does make a significant difference in how the tank's mobility feels. Bit of a lag there, oh well. But next I'll show the sort of the actual ability. Here you can see the tank, now having tracked the 60 TP, has 6,690 DPM.
That's how you destroy a tank. Armor-piercing strike.
And considering I'm continuing to break his track, my DPM is still very high due to Cole's ability.
Penetration. Go for a repeat strike.
This will be the same on the 140 clip that you see next.
Damage to enemy module. Module in. Strong hit. The Sergeant Cole special. Damage inflicted. That's what I'm talking about. Good shot. That's how you destroy a tank. What? I knew they do.
So the next commander is Duck1e. She's the light tank commander. And she does have some specialized light tank skill with the first one, which allows you to be, it allows you to know when you're spotted 2 seconds faster than usual, which is a very nice ability, and you do notice it in battle. Unfortunately, for tanks like the WZ-132A and WZ-1321, which already have the chameleon, I don't remember the name of it, the concealment thing for the Chinese light tanks. For those tanks, this won't be as useful because they get the eye above the enemy when they get spotted. However, it will be nice when, you know, they don't know when they've been spotted because the enemy is also unspotted. Also on that, if you don't want to have this ability, you can just use Duncan because he works on every tank, and for light tanks, Duncan's DPM is still very useful. The next skill, I would say, is a bit weak, and I'll say my opinion is that because I've compared it to the other commanders, which all have fairly strong skills, this one gives a very weak boost, weak bonus, and therefore I believe it needs buffing. So 5% tank movement speed, which is just acceleration, and 5% reload time for 15 seconds when you use a consumable. You must use a consumable for this to work, which means that, well, you know, you're sort of wasting it at certain times in the battle just to get mobility. Of course, that's if you decide to do that, or you're using the speed boost, which in some cases just isn't needed and you'd rather have the module repair with the repair kit. Of course, that choice is up to you, but you must use consumables to activate this skill. Next, it only works for 15 seconds and only for 5% in both movement speed and reload time. Compare that to the permanent 10% boost of Cole and the permanent 10% boost of Duncan. Why would you use this skill? I just don't see it happening. And then of course finally, when are you using both your movement speed and your reload time at the same time? Generally you're not. You're either going to be trying to DPM someone to death or you're going to be running away. You're not going to be doing both at once. So yeah, Duck1e, my opinion, that skill needs a bit of a buff. But you'll be able to see it in action in a second. So here is Duck1e's skill. You can see how fast the light bulb came up there. Here I've activated my speed boost, which gives me a 2.1 second inch clip instead of 2.2. It's also more mobile. You may not see it in here, but I did feel it when the speed boost stopped. So those were the 4 commanders that you'll be getting on the Ultra test. And of course in the Reforged actual release, they're the ones you get just for being a player who's already played the game. The next ones, I'm not sure how are coming, but they are in the game, so I'm going to talk about them. They're probably going to be for a new season or something. Just to guess, I don't have any information on that, but they did say events, so probably something like that. Kai is put on heavy tanks. I forgot if I mentioned, but Anthony goes on medium tanks and Duck1e goes on light tanks. Kai goes on heavy tanks, and he improves your tank's armor by 5%, which if you remember about enhanced armor, the equipment, that improves it by 3%. So it is a helpful boost and it does stack with that, which is really cool. Unfortunately, I'm not able to show Kai in gameplay because he's not been finished in development. He doesn't do anything on the tanks at the moment and his boosts aren't working on vehicles. But yeah, increasing armor, of course, very nice for certain vehicles in certain playstyles. Next is block and shoot, which means your alpha damage gets increased by 10%, of course, when fully upgraded, when you block damage for 10% of your tank's base HP. So let's take, for example, the mouse, which has 2,850 HP. Actually, no, the mouse is a bit of an outlier because of how much hit points it has. Let's take the WZ-111-5A, which has 2,350 hit points. So if you block a shot of damage that is 235 HP or more, then your next shot will do 10% more damage, which for the case of the 5A is an additional 44 damage for the next shot. Of course, if you miss that shot, then it's gone. You don't get another chance with it. You have to block another shot of damage. But yeah, unfortunately I can't show Kai because he's not working. Next, Captain, Captain Ruffian, you may know him as, or Captain Mad Games. He's a well-known character in Blitz, and I think it's cool that he's in the game. I do like him, and his voice lines are pretty funny, but what he gives is for medium tanks, and it improves your on-move dispersion by up to 30%, which is great because we have lost the crew skills for on-move dispersion improving. And again, 30% is a lot of that. So a very useful skill, especially because of how medium tanks can play. They're often quite active on the move and, you know, shooting on the move. So a useful skill there. Encore, which is every 30% of HP that's lost, your movement speed or acceleration and traverse increase by 5% and your top speed by 5 kilometers per hour. This is a very cool skill, and I don't think it's too strong. Again, my opinion here, I don't think it's too strong just because of the niche situations it's going to be used in. For it to be at its most highest effectiveness, because this effect does stack, will be when you've lost 90% of your HP. You'll be going really fast, and both forward and in reverse, because this increases your reverse speed as well. However, you're a one-shot, so you're playing really on the edge. And I think that's a really interesting balance to have. Playing it does feel fairly okay just because you're being really dangerous by being a one-shot. Of course, it's more practical when you're down by 60% hit points and you've got less of a boost, but of course, that's not the extreme, and that's what we want to see, isn't it? But yeah. It is a very interesting ability, very interesting balance, and luckily it's not something like DPM, which could just absolutely destroy balance. Mobility, not the worst thing to be increasing by. Next, Lisa, she also doesn't work like Kai. So the next commander. So here's the captain's skill on the Dracula, down to 10% hit points, going 82 kilometers per hour. Pretty impressive, yes. That extra 2 kilometers is from equipment, which I'm not able to talk about right now, but yeah, you can see how fast it went uphill, and now how fast it's going in reverse. Pretty impressive. And how now here's a normal tank, the M60, again, very quick. So the next commander I will be showing is Lisa. Again, just like Kai, she doesn't have, well, she's not finished in development, so I can't show any gameplay of her or how her skills are used. But she's for tank destroyers, the first and only tank destroyer commander at the moment. Her first skill improves accuracy by between 15 and 20% for the next shot fired after first 2 damaging shots. Very similar to Duncan's ability, except that you have to damage instead of just hitting enemies, and also, well, it's accuracy instead of alpha damage. One thing I will say, which I think is a bug, is it says 15 to 20%. It's probably meant to be 5 to 20%, just because that's a very small increase from when it's stock and when it's fully upgraded. Her other skill is Out of Sight, which increases your camo rating by up to 30%, which is basically the old camo crew skill coming back. Unfortunately, she's only usable on tank destroyers. However, I'll say maybe don't immediately start panicking, because there could be light tanks which get camo values in the future through commanders. And I do think that's really possible, because Wargaming does actually know that people like having camo on their tanks. They've got the stats of what equipment people use, and you know, they can see. So yeah, very strong skill, because it's currently only on tank destroyers, but we'll have to see if that is added to other vehicles later, because all tanks got camo rating removed, and now it's being added back to only tank destroyers. So yeah, it's a bit unfair, but again, it's very early, very hard to tell. Unfortunately, no gameplay for her. So, the final conclusion, are commanders a good addition to the game or not? Well, that's not for me to decide. That is for all of you, the players, to give feedback to Wargaming. I will say, don't be rude in the feedback, because likely Wargaming will just ignore you. That won't go over well if you're trying to get a point across. People don't want to hear your insults before they listen to your feedback. But yeah, if you do want to change commanders, definitely give feedback on it, because Wargaming will listen to the masses. And yeah, do remember they won't appear on your tank, because I heard that was a big concern of some people. But that is Commanders. You'll get to see more of the Reforged update in the future, on the 24th of January. But yeah, thanks for watching.